Right, today's project is learning 5 basic cuts that you need to master in order to be a woodcarver. If you want to know the types of projects that you can apply these cuts to, I have tons of free content here on YouTube. And I also have an online school which will help you to learn about carving portraits and the realistic face. You can check that out in the link below. But thank you for watching. Let's get into it. All right, so we're going to start with 5 cuts, and the first cut is a very simple cut, and it's a necessary one to master. So the first thing you do is you insert your blade at about a 45-degree angle. You want to make sure your blade is nice and sharp. I'm using a 1.5-inch carving blade here with the straight bevel ground, and I'm cutting into a piece of 2x2 basswood cut diagonally. You don't have to have that though. Now the V cut is whereby you're meeting with a 45-degree cut and an additional 45-degree cut, just like so, that frees that piece that we initially cut out. So 2 cuts that meet each other at equal angles typically, and you can, the beauty of the V cut is, just like that, you can alter the angle that you cut in at. So you can increase the angle, say if you want to create a steeper cut, like so. See that? Or you can widen the angle. You can do a really nice wide open V-cut. So this opens up a whole Pandora's box of things you can do with your knife. Okay, so that's the V-cut, right? V-cut. The next one that's important to understand is called the stop cut. Do that here. The stop cut is incredibly important and very similar to the V-cut. So we're going to come in with a straight cut this time, right? This seems painfully obvious, but it's important to know. And we come up to that line. Now notice what I did here is I actually went a little bit deeper on this, what's called relief cut. The relief cut is the cut that moves towards the stop cut, which is this cut we made here. I made this too deep, so we're not getting a relief or a release of the chip. So to get that release of the chip, I'll just gently go back over that stop cut and you'll hear it. And it should just fall out by itself. If it doesn't fall out by itself, just go back over the cuts lightly. And this is a nice stop cut. I'm going to do this a number of times just to show you. Back and forth, like so. You can go different depths with this one, and you can do a variety of mixes of angles, some hybrids between the V cut and the stop cut. The next cut is a scoop cut. Now a scoop cut is probably one of the most underused cuts I see in the whittling world. A lot of beginners, they don't really get to learn this cut, and so I thought I'd include it in here for that reason, just so folks can get a really good sense of the types of cuts they'll need to make. All right, so the scoop cut is a challenging cut, but a necessary one. You can do this at multiple points on the wood. It's just a little bit more challenging in some parts of the wood than others, and we'll talk about grain structure in a future video. But all right, now the first thing you need to know with the scoop cut is, instead of coming through with a knife straight like so, I'm gonna take this corner off, it's biting into my hand. Instead of just coming through, right? This is a standard push cut. And we're not going to really get into the technique of holding the blade or those types of cuts. We're just getting into the specific ones that you'll use for carving. In fact, we'll get to those other ones in a different video. But like the way of holding the knife and getting power. But instead of just cutting straight through, for the scoop cut, we're just going to turn our wrist as we're pushing through the material. So it just looks like this, right? Very tricky thing to get used to. But what happens when you start to scoop, notice how that's scalloped. Okay, now you can do this in the middle of a piece of wood like so, not off of an end, but it's going to be a lot more challenging because you get more grain breakout. So you have to do a combination of 2 cuts, almost like a V cut. So you'll come through on one side with that scoop and then come through on the other side with that scoop, until those sides meet, and that's a challenging thing to get them to meet perfectly. It doesn't always work for me, so I'll go back and over that again. But you notice we get that nice scallop, all right? And so we can get a scoop cut like that. This is kind of replacing a gouge in a sense. You can also do that into the side of the wood, scooping out like so. Okay, there's a scoop cut. I entered the wood, and then I came out the other side by scooping. And then I press in with a stop cut at the top, and that is a modified scoop cut. You can see the effect that that has on the wood, the shape that I'm making there. It's this really useful cut. We use it a lot in excavating out the eyes and excavating out various types of cuts. Okay, so we're 3 cuts in. We've got 2 more cuts because we've got 5 here. The triangle cut is our next cut. So first of all, let's call this scoop. Scoop cut. And then we've got the triangle cut. This might be the most challenging of the cuts to master. It's probably between this one and that nice scoop that we created in the middle of the grain. The triangle cut, although not worth fretting about, let's just write that out. It's really fairly straightforward. I'm going to create a cut at about a 45-degree angle. Excuse me. Like so. Straight in. And then I'm going to come in with another cut, meeting at a triangle sort of pattern, right? So imagine you're just drawing a triangle with your knife, except for you're angling inward at a 45-degree angle. And then this final cut, okay? Now, there's a lot of speculation as to why people consider this the triangle cut. It goes back to the ancient Mayans. They say that it's called the triangle cut because the Mayans thought this cut, this is a dumb joke. It looked like a triangle was the joke. Okay, right, it's just a triangle. And so the goal here is to get a nice, clean, triangularly shaped indentation. Really, it should be called a pyramid cut because it's a 3-dimensional pyramid, but in reverse, okay? So we're going to try that once more. The beauty of this cut as well, just like with the V cut, is you can vary the shape of your triangle, right? So if I wanted to make a long, thin triangle, I could do that. I could just come in with my knife, create 2 long sides. Remember this from geometry, all the different types of triangles that we can create. So I'm going back over those lines gently until the chip falls. Right? See that? All different variations we can do of the triangle cut. And the final cut is called the line cut. Line cut. Line cut is fairly straightforward. It's kind of a good ending point because it involves a lot of the cuts that we've already done today, between the idea of the triangle cut being kind of inset into the wood in this way of creating a pattern. This one's called a line cut because it's really a line, and you can do a number of different shapes of line. You can make S curves as you get more advanced with this, but we'll start with a straight one. So the first thing you need to know about a line cut is it has a start and an end point. So we'll create the start and the end point. Let's just create a little line like so, about a ½ inch apart from one another. 2 little lines, just like that. End point. And the next thing I'll do is I'll kind of draw with my knife at a 45-degree angle again, alongside one corner of that line, connecting one corner of that little line to the next, like so. And then I'll turn this around and I'll do the same thing here. I'll go on the opposite side, this edge, the edge of this line, connecting the 2 lines, this one to this one at a 45-degree insertion angle here. Check that out. See that angle? All right. I can notice something. Look at that. First try. Nice, clean line cut. Now, you're not typically going to be creating this exact shape in wood very often, but what this does set you up for is a cut that you will make all the time. And that's S-shaped cuts, especially if you're doing portraiture. If you're doing chip carving, there's a whole host of other cuts that we're not covering in here because I'm certainly no chip carving artist, but these are the cuts that I use most often in my type of carving, my portrait carving and whittling and this sort of thing. So the variation of the S cut is like so. So you're coming in at a 45 degree, just like that. And then I'll come to meet that line the opposite direction, following that line, just like so. And you'll notice if I scallop up at the end of that line to end it, that piece will just fall out and we've created that nice little line. This is a challenging version of the line cut, but a very, very useful one when you're carving hair, when you're carving defining boundaries of one form to the next. Hardly ever a straight line in portraiture, so you're going to use these curved lines a lot more often. Alright guys, if you'd like to learn more about carving, including the types of portraiture that I use these cuts on and basic whittling projects, I've got tons on YouTube here. You can check out my channel. I've also got an online school for those trying to advance their skills and grow in portraiture and realistic face carving, or what we call naturalistic face carving, so you can check that out. Anyway, thanks for watching guys. We'll see you in the next one. Take your vitamins.